What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I'm your host, Reckless Rex Ruger. Watching my back, as always, is the Freddie Mercury puppet. We're back with another great episode with a friend of the show, a returning guest. I'm excited. You're excited. He's here. So we're going to get down to it and chop it up with him, man. Here we go with another one. I'm excited about this one. Love this guy. Love his band. So we're getting into it. There he is, my guy, Brian. What's up?
Yo, what's up, man?
Glad to see you, man. How's it going?
It's going good. You know, I'm here.
Is it really going good, Brian? It seems like it really is because there's a real excitement, man, and it's great to see, kind of see somewhat Soilent Green back in the swing of things.
Yeah, man. You know, we're chipping away.
Yeah, it's
good, man. I'm excited about it. It's good stuff. So
yeah. You know what, man? There's a lot of bands out there that get back together, and there's a buzz around them, man. But there really is a collective buzz. People were excited when I had you on the last time, man. People really love Soilent Green, and I think they're super happy to have them back.
Well, that makes me happy, man.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it feels good. You know, we're jamming. We got some shows, and it feels good to play them songs again, man. We're probably back more in the groove than we were last year. You know, we've got a little bit more under our belt now, and the songs are coming more natural. You know, So yeah, man, it's fun. We're enjoying it. You know, we got some stuff next year in the works too. So yeah, man, good shit.
And for people that might not know the history of the band, I just want you to talk like a little bit about the contributions, man, because you've been there like from day one, man. About some of the people that have specifically, people have reached out to me who are curious about, man. And maybe you could shed a little light on their role, if there will be a role in the band, and just people that have been a part of the Soilent Green family. Can you give us any updates on Donovan Punch?
Donovan, he's hanging out in the woods, man.
Okay.
You know, he's living his life in Asheville, and yeah, you know, he just went a different route back in the day, you know, and he kind of just wanted to, you know, do his own thing, and he enjoys seclusion, and he enjoys being by himself, doing his own thing, playing music. Yeah, I mean, he still plays. He does little shows here and there up there, and but yeah, man, you know, we've recently talked quite a good bit. Excuse me. And you know. And we're back in touch. He lives like 2.5 hours from me, man. So we've talked about hooking back up again, and you know, playing around, having some fun, and playing with each other, and playing you know, writing some music together and all that kind of stuff, you know, and see what happens. But yeah, so that's Donovan's world, man. You know, he's up there chilling. You know, we've yeah, he's happy.
I had Tommy Buckley on, and I
know recently you've talked a thing about Tommy. Tommy mentioned something about me and him writing new Soilent Green stuff together. And is that a possibility? Yeah, you know, down the road, you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, he shows interest in writing, and I'm interested in writing with him, you know, but I think we just like writing with each other, no matter what comes out kind of a thing. You know, and you know, so we'll you know, only time will tell with that kind of stuff, man.
There's certainly an excitement when people hear that, though. You know what I mean? There's definitely.
Okay. Well, good, man. You know, I'm excited about that too. You know, I mean, me and little Donovan, he holds a special place in my heart, and hopefully I do it with him as well. I mean, we grew up together. We've been through a lot together, and yeah, he's just an overall genuine dude, and he hasn't changed at all, man, really, for the most part, you know, in a long time. You know, he holds true. So he's one of my true friends, man. I love that man to death, you know, and we've always clicked writing, you know. I mean, we fed off each other, you know, and it's one of those things that I know for sure I miss writing with him. You know? So I really do look forward to writing some stuff with him, you know. We've even tried pulling him in to play gigs, you know, and he doesn't want to. You know, it's like one of those things, you know, he's just like, dude, I can't play. He doesn't play, you know, he's unconfident about himself, you know. I'm still gonna crack at him to do it, you know, and see what happens. You know, I have a feeling once we meet up, we play a little bit together and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he might be a little bit more open to it, you know.
Such a gifted guitar player, though. Amazing.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, sure, man. I mean, yeah, he's great. You know, nobody plays like that, dude. Oh, well, you know, I've been lucky in my in just my musical, whatever you want to call a career, to be blessed with, I hate to use that word, scratch that. To be to just be
Fortunate.
People say that word around here all the time, man, and it really scrapes me. But to be lucky enough to play with some amazing musicians, you know. And I've come to realize that they're definitely not a dime a dozen. So, you know, playing with Tommy Buckley and playing with, you know, Joey Lacaze and Jimmy Bauer and like, you know, Scott Crochet, Scott Williams, our old bass player. You were talking about some of the old family who ended up passing away.
I was going to ask about him. Yep.
Tragically, he was an amazing bass player, and unfortunately, with me as well, and a lot of our brethren, we let a lot of things cloud our visions, you know, and and it kind of prohibited a lot of things from happening. You know, you look back and things, you know, and you wish you would have done things a certain way, you know, and I wish I would have handled Scott differently. You know, it's definitely one of those things I regret in my life. You know, I wish I could talk to him right now and clear and say thanks to him. That's all, you know. But his bass playing was amazing. You know, Ben Stout, who's missing in action. If anybody happens to know where Mr. Benjamin Stout is,
put out an all points bulletin.
Absolutely, because we were about to go to Japan. He played on Delita Symphony. And he helped write that record a little bit as well, you know. And we were about to go to Japan and play this massive festival with tons of people, you know. I mean, you all the big metal names were there, and we were playing in front of 80,000 people at Yokohama Arena. Big. And he basically quit the band right before we were supposed to fly out, you know. And we were basically kind of waiting, and he never showed up, and which is fine. You know, he was going through a lot. I get it. You know, it's not a big deal, you know, but he never did. He just disappeared from then. Nobody's been in touch with him. Nobody really knows what happened, you know, where he's at now. You know, nobody really knows. As far as I know, if they do, please reach out to me and let me know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So he just puffed away. An amazing talent too. You know, he played with Goatwhore for a while. Also. Was
there any kind of precursor that he wanted to kind of just disappear off the grid?
No, that's just it. He was going through some stuff, okay, and with that stuff comes emotional instability. You know what I mean? So, was he having some of that? Probably so. Yeah, we all were kind of a little bit here and there in certain ways. So it's, you know, so that's all, man. It really was, you know. And then, you know, so yeah, not really a precursor, just, you know, basic life drama, you know, that we were all kind of, you know, dealing with at the time, you know. And maybe he was scared, you know. I don't know, you know. He had a habit, so maybe he was afraid to go over there and you know, not be able to handle that, you know. Regardless, even if that was the case, you know, that's not a reason to kind of just fall off the end of the earth, you know, and just, you know, stop playing music in the scene and you know, like disappearing, you know.
And now talk a little bit more about the loss of Scott Williams, though, because he was obviously somebody in the family that, you know, if you can elaborate a little more on his contributions and your time working with him.
Absolutely, man. Scott on stage was magic.
Yeah,
he could do it all live on stage. Fall down face first and get right back up and hit the note and be great, you know.
Yeah,
and his songwriting was awesome as well, you know. I mean, you know, he was fun to be around, man. But he was a mean drunk, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was like one of those things that, you know, he got a little drunk, he got a little ornery, you know, and it got to be a little hard, you know, as far as me goes, you know, communicating, because I wasn't going down that road at the time.
Right.
You know, it was like kind of, I wasn't feeling that, you know. So I mean, it's like, man, you know, so I wish I would have handled that different, knowing what I know now. But it was what it was, you know. Scott was just an ornery son of a gun when he had too much to drink, you know, and everybody in the band kind of knew it. But every now and then it got brought into the practice room and kind of stuff like that. But we learned how to deal with it, you know. And but he was just a great bass player. I could play anything for him. Me and Donovan would play anything. He was able to back it right up, you know, and then some. You know, he was like one of those things. He kind of thought out of the box, you know. I mean, we would throw some riffs at him, and he would put his own twist on it, you know.
Right.
What we really want is a cookie cutter bass player that's just following exactly along with what we're doing. You know, we want a little flair, man. Add your own taste into things, you know, because there's licks and things that, you know, we're not going to necessarily do with you. And he shined, man. He was confident. He was a finger bass player. He taught our first bass player, Marcel, how to do the 3-finger technique, as far as I remember, when he was going through it, how to speed up, because he originally played with a pick and then he switched over to fingers, and Scott was the one. He had that speed, to be able to kind of get that going on those bass strings, but yeah, so Scott was great, man. It was sad. He quit the band before it all ended, probably 5 or 6 different times, and he always wanted to come back, and we always let him come back. And it was just, he had an emotional roller coaster at times, I think he also had confidence problems, and he was going through some stuff upstairs as well, and but he contributed a lot to the band, and I mean a lot. He contributed to our live performances tremendously. His presence was amazing. His bass playing was great. He wrote riffs that were really great. He was heavily influenced by kind of old school punk rock and hardcore stuff, so a lot of his riffs were kind of along those lines. So yeah, man, Scott was a big part, especially in the early days. Those first, in particular, probably Some Mouth Secrets. Was he had a big part in that one.
His fingerprints on that one a lot.
Yeah. With some of the other stuff, on the first song, on the first record, he was kind of a little intimidated about as far as contributing too much, and I think he might start losing a little bit of interest at times, and some of the other records, with Deleted, around that time.
What about the late great Glenn Rambo?
Late great Glenn Rambo. Ah, man, he was.
And it always sucks to have to talk about these guys and say the late great. I mean, it's unfortunate that we lose these personalities and these people. It sucks that we have to talk about them, but that's why I think it's so important to make sure we put a little bit of shine on past members and their contributions.
Absolutely, man. Glenn was a great dude, man. And, he's gotten some recent buzz around him, just kind of in the inner circle back in New Orleans. He's never been forgotten, man. And I'm happy to talk about Glenn, because I don't want that man forgotten. You know what I mean? He was a very unique soul. He added a completely different twist to the band that we were doing at the time. Hey, Rocky, give me a few minutes, buddy.
Wait, can I just tell you something?
Okay, hold on one second.
No, I understand. I got kids and grandkids.
Hey, what's up, Ed?
So, with stepsisters, is he that right? That called that was the scissors.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay, we'll talk to Coley about that when we're done.
Okay, come on, please.
We get to see a rare glimpse into the extreme metal guy parenting. Yeah.
That's my life now, man.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear, and believe me, I've definitely had my fair share of interruptions, hiccups, technical issues, and I don't edit anything. Everything stays in. Everything.
That's fine. There's no worries, man. Thank you.
Yeah, but you were talking about Glenn Rambo.
They like to never give me a minute's peace.
I know. I get it.
Glenn was, man, it's hard to describe Glenn. I've never met anybody like him, and I never will, and he was probably the most enthusiastic dude I knew about music, period.
Yeah.
We would spend hours talking about music and talking about different bands, and just the love of music that me and him had together. It just flourished. It was just like we were just so down, man, and we discovered bands. We got the influences that came to our band, we discovered them together, me, him, and Donovan, and it was just a trinity of love. The original band was me, him, and Donovan. We had moved on from Nuclear Crucifixion, and so it was our little baby, man, in the early days, and Glenn had a very unique style of singing. He was kind of finding himself. He was not a one-track singer. He was like, I'm influenced by this now, so I'm going to do this for a while. I'm influenced by this now, so I'm going to bring this in. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of how me and Donovan thought about songwriting as well. So it was perfect. We were influenced by whatever style of music, whatever was happening, usually obscure stuff that was kind of like off the main, and it all was off the main back then, obviously, but So his style was very unique, man. It's very good. We started getting into a lot of Japanese noise rock together, like the Boredoms and Ruins and stuff like that.
Right.
And we started incorporating that, and I really dug it. Yamatsuka Ai started becoming to be a really heavily influence on a lot of stuff he was doing. Who influenced a lot of cats, that guy. And he was doing great, man. It was awesome. We were kind of doing our thing. But it just got a little sour, and he, it got to be the way he didn't come to practice for like 2 years, man. We had all the music written in, and he just got caught up, and it was just so things just got weird, man. But he contributed great, man. He was just a happy, awesome soul, and I wish I could jam with him right now. I wish I could write with that dude right now. The stuff that we'd be able to write would be pretty cool, man.
And for people that might not know, he perished during Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah, it's a tragic story, man. He lived out in Violet, Louisiana, which is way down the road in St. Bernard Parish, and it's kind of desolate area, super flat, not a whole lot going on. A little small house, a lot of trailer parks and stuff like that. And he would walk to practice. He would hitchhike and walk to our practice every day from way down there. And he'd get harassed by the athletes, and jocks, and all that shit back then. But he was down there with his mom when Katrina hit. He was in his house. Water came up really quick in that area when the levee broke around there, and a lot of people got, ended up facing the same fate as he did.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they were unprepared. They went up into the attic because the water came up, and he got trapped. He couldn't get out. So
that's an impactful story, because I think people often hear in other parts of the world about these natural disasters, and maybe they wonder, how are people not surviving these? How come people couldn't get out? How come people couldn't, But it is very real, though. It is, it is real. These natural disasters can sneak up and bite you in the ass and have serious repercussions.
For sure. I mean, granted, this is New Orleans, man. We've seen a hurricane or two. So
Sure.
It wasn't like we were like virgins to having a storm roll through the area like that.
Right.
But it was just an exceptional case, and just knocked everything out. And, one of the things you don't think about much is putting an axe or a hatchet up in your attic.
Right.
But you should,
Yeah.
obviously for certain reasons like that, flood waters come up, you get up in that attic, where are you going to go? And people lived on their rooftops for days waiting for people to be rescued, so, he wasn't one of the lucky ones, unfortunately,
Yeah.
So,
Which is extremely sad, extremely sad. And so, what was the plan? Because I'm glad you brought up Nuclear Crucifixion. So that was a short-lived band. But so when you and Donovan and Glenn split, man, what was your vision, man? What was the plan? Okay, man, we're gonna start out on this. We're gonna embark on this new journey, man. What was the vision? What were you guys talking about, man? Like, what was the collective?
We were kind of tired of, like, as I mentioned before, we would like to bring in other influences and stuff like that to our music, and listen to different styles and different things, and kind of try to incorporate that into what we were doing. And it was kind of, metal was a very like closed-minded thing, you know what I mean? Especially, it was like punk rock, you didn't want to get your punk rock mixed with your metal, and and it was like a very strange time, very hard rigid, we weren't like that, man. We were like willing to experiment and do whatever, we felt was fun to do. We wanted to have fun. That's what it was about. We didn't take ourselves seriously. And the other two cats that were playing with us were a little too serious, and they kind of didn't like the goofiness stuff they were doing. They actually approached me to try to get me to get them out of the picture and continue on, and I was like, nah, man, this is the soul. This is where I'm going, this is what I want to do, and so they continued on with the name Nuclear Crucifixion, actually, and recorded a demo with some songs. Ironically, one of the songs was a song Donovan had wrote. They did it with a cat named Brian, who still, I think, sings in the scene in New Orleans area, and Joe, who went on to play with Scott Williams in a band called New Religion, which is what was playing in when we got him into Soilent Green, So it's kind of all intertwined in ways.
And I may have asked you this the last time, man, but are you able to put a finger, and forgive me if I did ask you this last time, but are you able to put a finger on like why? We've seen some geographically amazing areas, in our country, that have spawned some amazing scenes. Why is the NOLA scene so amazing, man? Can you put a finger on it? It really has. I mean, come on, it's no accident, man. And now we're seeing the resurgence of Acid Bath and you guys, and then I think everybody all already knows about, you know, Crowbar and I Hate God, who were just out on tour, together. And I must say, I chose babysitting. You were just talking about parenting. I chose babysitting my granddaughter, even though Tommy and Matt had put me on the list. And that's the sacrifices you make, you know.
Yeah.
Syracuse, New York, man, right down the road, man. And I could have been there, should have been there, but you know, I mean, family duty calls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Broke my heart. But
well, no, I'm sure they'll be back around, man.
Yeah, I hope so, man. And that's a very unique tour, man, because people have been asking for Crowbar and I Hate God to play together for a while, and you know, so it was a nice opportunity, man. But yeah, I'm gonna keep that thought in my mind. Thank you for being so optimistic, man. They'll come around again. That's right. But why is that such a great scene, though? I mean, seriously, like we've seen a great death metal scene in Tampa, Florida. You know, the grunge scene in Seattle. You know what I mean?
That's one thing that's a lot of things that a lot of cats don't know about. There's a lot of new kids in the New Orleans scene that are awesome, man.
Oh, that's good to know. Man. Yeah.
So keep an eye out, you know, for that stuff. A lot of the cats that are playing with us, man, are mind blowing, man. There's so there's a lot of great notes. And some are getting good recognition, man. There's some little thrashers, man, that are coming out that are getting I can't remember any of that. I can't remember their names because I'm old and
right.
But there's a lot of great stuff coming up now, man, out of the New Orleans scene. You know, what makes it, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, New Orleans is a really good music town anyway. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that we're kind of disconnected from the rest of the world and don't really give a shit about what's going on a lot of times in the rest of the world. So we kind of do our own thing, you know, and kind of, you know, walk our own walk, man, you know. So a lot of the music that's coming out of that stuff is kind of unique in its own right, you know, because it's, you know, we kind of, like I said, we, you know, kind of separate ourselves from what's happening in the rest of the world. But man, you know, a lot of good musicians helps, you know. It's a flood of musicians down there, you know, that are willing to jam with each other as well, you know, that you know, there's everybody's friends, you know, so you're just hanging out and you're down there. Obviously I'm kind of missing out on that aspect living up in these parts, but you know, you're out hanging out and you're like, hey man, I got this really cool idea, let's go to the room and play, you know. And you just bounce around with like the drummer of this band, like the bass player of this band, you know, hey, you know, and you know each other's friends, you know, and you just want to play with each other and, you know, come up with good music, man, for fun. It's all for fun, you know. You know, and a lot of people that on here, they don't take themselves seriously, you know. They just want to play music, have a good time doing it, you know. If you can get in a bar and play for your friends and, you know, maybe get smashed doing it, you know, it's kind of what it's all about, you know.
Yeah, I can definitely sense that there's a camaraderie. You know, you I mean, especially after having several guys, you know, on the podcast from that scene. You know, you can tell that, you know, there's not so much rivalry and competition, but more mutual respect and lifting each other up.
Absolutely, man. Just like yeah, I mean, why? You know, I mean, like, even, you know, a lot of people would take other local bands as like a threat in some way. Maybe I don't really understand that, but you know, it's, you know, we like to pick each other up, man. You know, it's like the last couple of shows we did, we played with Flesh Parade, man, our old friends, man, that we've been knowing forever. You know, they're coming right back now, you know, and doing a resurgence too. So it's like, come on, let's do it together, you know. And so yeah, man, you know, we're all friends, man. We all, like I said, knew each other, and they got all these new fresh faces coming up too, man. That are great, man. You know, talented musicians, man, wanting to do the same thing. So yeah, it's a good vibe, man. You know, and if it's not, I only kind of know that scene. I've spent some time in like Northern Cali and that's about it, really. You know, and they got a really great scene there as well. And it kind of is almost the same way, you know. I mean, they all know each other. They're all kind of floating around with each other, playing in different bands and different projects. Not a lot of it not really getting much recognition, but it's just being done for fun, kind of thing. And yeah, man. So you know, I only know the New Orleans scene much, man, and I know that what we got is fun, especially, you know. If it's not like that in other parts of the country, then it's just sad for them, I guess.
Yeah. Now, where are you in terms of, like, obviously you said Soilent Green is out playing shows. Where are you in terms of, or you specifically, and or all you guys as a band? You know, obviously some of the other members have other projects going on. But where are you in terms of an itinerary? You know, with touring, because you do have a family, you do have obligations, you do have priorities, man. You know, you are dug into like a family and a home life. I mean, so what works for you at this stage of your career?
Well, luckily enough, my kids are getting a little bit older. They're still pretty young, you know,
Yeah.
so I'm able to kind of dance around a little bit. There's some recent stuff in my family now that we're having to deal with, but once we get over that, you know, I'll have even more free time, you know, and it's just that, you know, it's kind of just kind of utilizing it because it's important to me. You know, it's extremely important to me. You know, as much as I love being my family man, I've wanted to play music since I was you know, a child, you know, young child, you know, I wanted to do this, you know, so it hurts when I can't do it. It physically hurts me. So it's a need for me, you know, more than anything else, to just be able to play for people, write music, you know, at whatever level it is. I don't care as long as I'm doing something. And, you know, so for me, it's just a matter of, you know, weighing priorities, you know, being home when I need to be, and trying to figure out ahead of time a spot that I can be away. And when I do, I just, you know, right now it's just kind of hit or miss, man. You know, we make a plan here and there, and I'm like, okay, I make the time to go do it, no matter what's going on in my life. You know, I obligate myself, so I'm going to go do it, you know, and it's getting me out the house. It's nice, man. So, you know, it's definitely a chore. What I like to do more, and, you know, and it's not just me, it's other members of the band, you know, Ben has some free time lately, but Tommy's really busy with Crowbar, you know, flipping up because Down's doing some stuff. So it's all logistics, man. We have to plan. We have to talk to each other. Scott's, you know, grounded by his work, you know, so we have to plan accordingly with him as well. You know, so that's why it's kind of like it's been one-offs, weekends, and you know, at first, until we kind of get in the groove of things and kind of free up a little bit more time, you know, between everything, and maybe get a month set aside. We're supposed to be possibly going to Europe next year, you know, for a short stint. And so yeah, it's for us, it's taking a little bit more time to kind of get our foot in the water, you know, or we already got our foot in the water to kind of get the rest of our body in, you know. You know, and eventually we want to write new music, you know, we want to release some stuff, you know. So we want to get at it. Unfortunately, we just can't jump at it as quickly as a lot of other folks are, you know.
Yeah, and that was right where I was going too, because obviously, you know, with these shows, it creates a buzz. Certainly, people want to know. It's been since 2008, inevitable collapse. People want to know, you know, new Soilent Green music on the way.
Yeah, new songs
at some point.
Yeah, new songs are coming, man. You know, I've got stuff written. You know, it's just a matter of this last trip I was supposed to go on, unfortunately got cut short. I was not able to go to my full trip. So the plan was to start writing on this last trip. So, you know, the next trip, we're going to plan on starting to write on that trip, you know? So, I've got stuff in the back burner ready to go. It's just a matter of like, us in the practice room, being able to hunker down, because it takes time you know, for us, because we don't want to shortchange the songs, you know, and we try to put a lot of ideas into our songs. So, it takes a little bit of time, you know, but,
sure.
Yeah, but it's coming, man. So yeah,
that's good news. That's good news. The fans will be happy to hear that. I want to ask again, getting back to Glenn Rambo, man. You know, you played alongside him, and now you play alongside of Ben, man. What are the two, or you know, what's the biggest dynamic between, you know, each of them as frontmen?
Oh, Ben and Glenn.
Yeah.
You know, they're totally different, man. You know, it's totally different. Ben is a presence, man. You know, he was a strong presence on stage. He's forward. He's in your face. He's there. Not right now, but yeah. Oh, hold on one second.
Sure. Yeah.
One real quick.
Yeah, of course. So this is where I stall for time, and you get to just see me, and I get to remind you that we are on here with BRIAN PATTON, guitarist for the legendary Soilent Green. I think I can say legendary. I can say legendary, right? Yeah, I can say. Yeah, I can say BRIAN PATTON of the legendary Soilent Green.
Oh man, it makes me feel old.
Yeah. But so the difference between those two as lead singers, you know, you've got to stand alongside both of them.
Ben is that strong forward. He's in your face. He's that singer. He's there. He's like raw. He's Glenn was more of an artistic presence. He was avant-garde. He would, you know, he would he would do unexpected things. Yeah. Like he would lay on the ground. He would you know, his presence was much more kind of here and there. wavy and like all over the place, man. He was like falling down at any minute. He was nervous all the time, man. So he had like this energy that he was not confident, but once he got up there, man, he let himself go. He was a unique star. I'll put it that way. You know, he looked like Charles Manson. Everybody, I don't know if you've seen pictures of Glenn before.
Oh yeah, of course.
So he had this Charles Manson look, presence, super long black hair, very long, lanky, super big, long fingers.
Yeah.
Very, you know, I'm trying to think of somebody that I could compare him to, you know, that you could visualize, you know, his presence, man. And I can't think of anybody, but he was very physical on stage. Most of the time he ended up, like I said, on the ground, and he would go out in the crowd and mess with them a bunch, and it was different, you know. So, but both were great, you know. We saw Ben with paralysis, and I fell in love with Ben, you know, and his stage presence, you know, and just his voice. It's a strong voice, loud voice. And so yeah, when we were having problems with Glenn, you know, that was the one I knew was going to do it, you know. So but yeah, they're totally different singers, man. And Glenn, there's a lot of different demos of our old stuff, and each one of them has a different vocal style, you know, because Glenn was experimenting, doing stuff, you know, all over the place, man, you know. And what I'm really curious to know, kind of figure out what he'd be doing today, honestly, you know, if he was still around, man, you know, because he had a very artistic mind, man. And and I'm just really curious to figure out where he'd be today, man, doing hopefully me and Lil D would have something with him, you know.
And when you say that Glenn started to check out and you reach out to Ben, though, man, like what's that? You know, what was the impetus for specifically reaching out to Ben? You know what I mean? Like, how does Ben show up on your radar? And what is it that was telling you that Ben is the guy that we need if Glenn's going to be out?
Okay. Well, Ben, I knew Ben, like I said, from Paralysis. I was a huge fan of the vocals. The vocals made that band, as far as I was concerned.
Okay.
Loved them. I used to live in a house with my mama, and all these young cats would come by my house, and we would sit in my bedroom and we would listen to music. And these are the cats from Flesh Parade, cats from Paralysis, cats from Severance, a lot of the younger bands that were coming out at the time would always come by my pad, and we'd jam out, listen to music. Well, Ben and those guys were one of them. Ben actually lived probably about like maybe 5 minutes from my house, if that, you know, we could walk to his pad. So we were neighbors for the most part. And so we saw each other a good bit. But once I heard him sing, man, that band, I would go over there and watch him practice. I remember the first time I watched Paralysis practice and seeing Ben actually sing, you know, I was like, man, he was good, you know. So I was like, fuck, he's good, you know. And in the scene in New Orleans when it came, that stuff was young, but you know, it's still been going on for a while, but it was still pretty young, man, you know. And a lot of, you know, I just gravitated towards vocal style, man. I thought he was the best damn metal vocalist in the scene at the time. So so when Glenn started the waiver, it was natural for me to go, hey man, you know, would you be interested in doing this? You know, we had a record that we were possibly, you know, going to be making soon, and we're about to go record. We had all this material ready to go, man. And Ben seemed to be into it. And he had an idea about doing some different stuff with his vocals at the time, you know, and that's when he started bringing in his various vocal styles into some and stuff, you know, to kind of fluctuate with what we were doing. And
but at the time he's also in a band, so you are kind of poaching him, kind of.
Yeah, man. So I was like, hey, man. but yeah, man. So he he was down with it, man. But that was my first impression, man. I saw them practice, and I was like, fuck yeah. So it was. I didn't think of anybody else at the time. I wanted him.
Which is not unheard of. I mean, Metallica famously did that with Cliff Burton when they saw him play too. They kind of poached him, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. You know, but you know, we were big fans of like, hey man, do what you want to do. Let's jam together, you know. Yeah. You know,
but we wouldn't mind having your services though, should you, you know, should you be able to make yourself available.
I'm glad he did, man. You know, so I mean, but that, you know, I mean, we were young too, man. You know, I was hungry. I wanted to play, and the more people I could play for, and the more I could do, the better. You know, I wanted to jam all the time, man. You know, and Ben was all on that boat. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good fit, man. And I think right when he got in that band, we recorded our first demos that got assigned to Dwell.
And so what is the creative process like now? You've hinted at starting to write, starting to scratch the surface a little bit on new Soylent Green stuff. So how is that process working? Is everybody collaborating? Are you kind of taking the reins?
Well, generally I'll me and Scott pretty much write all the riffs. I'll write a good bit of it, you know. Scott contributes. But the process is basically kind of the same as it always has been. I'll sit and I'll write and I'll get parts together. It's all done in little groups, and I'll get like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 parts together, get them all intertwined together, bring them in. Tommy sits with his little practice pad between us, you know, and we'll work it out, and I'll show it to him, and you know, he'll get his little thing going, and we'll go through the entire song like that generally before he gets on his drums, and then he'll get back there just so we all are on the same page, because it's kind of easy to get lost when he's way back there behind the drums and I'm trying to explain stuff and all that. So we're all kind of do a quick little unit together, us 3, and then we'll flesh it out on our instruments, you know. But it'll take, depending on, man, it could take, you know, probably could take anywhere between, depending on how much we get together, you know, it could take up to a month to write a song.
Yeah.
You know, depending on, some of them can have 30 to 40 different changes going on in those things, you know. So I like to make it hard on myself for some stupid reason. But yeah, so it'll take a little bit of time. But that's the process usually. I kind of sit back there and I think, I write riffs, and I kind of have a anxiety problem. So my mind doesn't really stop a lot of times with music. So
I hear you there.
I have stuff running through my brain constantly, and it's just a matter of kind of grabbing hold of what's happening. And
I relate to that. Not on a musical level, but I just relate to the not being able to shut it off sometimes.
Right. Well, there you go. So generally, if I sit, it's just a matter of me capturing what's happening in my brain, you know, and I'll work on it for a little while. But yeah. So once I get a general game plan, I bring it in, show it to Tommy and Scott, and Scott will do the same. You know. Yeah. You know, every now and then we'll kind of just like do spontaneous riffs, you know, to kind of see what comes up and jam it. But generally it's thought out, you know. Yeah. They'll have a spontaneity, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's great, that's all right, you know, and I'll go back and I'll refine, you know.
Do you think Soylent Green can be pigeonholed into a specific, I don't know where you stand on this. Like, I know the metal world, the extreme metal world in general, is real big on genres, subgenres, subgenres of the subgenres. You know what I mean? Is there one that Soylent Green fits in? I've got some here in front of me where I've seen you guys described as grindcore, death metal, black metal, hardcore, bluesy, groove-oriented southern rock. I mean, I have all these in front of me. These are all taken from the internet, which there's never anything wrong on the internet. So, I mean, the internet often gets it right.
Can be made to describe us.
Okay.
We put all those together, and that's kind of what we are. You know, I mean, we're influenced by punk rock, hardcore, some black metal, some R&B, soul, jazz, blues, metal, grindcore. It's all there, you know. It all comes into play in one way or another, at least in my mind. You know, whatever comes out. But all those influences are there when I'm writing, you know.
So feet to the flame, there's not one genre that you think Soylent Green can be pigeonholed into.
No, I'd like to say no, you know, to that, because, you know, we kind of purposely try not to. You know, I mean, we don't want to be pigeonholed, you know, because, you know, at that point we're expected to be a certain way, you know, and I don't want to be expected to be a certain way. I want to be able to do what I want. You know, if I want to write a country western riff in the middle of a Soylent Green song, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to write, you know, an easy, you know, a total, like, you know, torch song in the middle of a song, or at the beginning or at the end, or make an entire song that should be, I want to do that, you know. And, you know, if you're a black metal band, there's not too many black metal bands whipping out jazz riffs, you know.
That's true.
Or something, you know? So you kind of get, like you said, you get pigeonholed where, you know, people expect a certain thing from you, you know, when you're under a genre, you know. So, you know, it's not, in this day and age, if you're not branching out, then you've done something. All you're doing is something that's already been done, you know, in my opinion, you know, because anything straightforward has already been done. Now, granted, there's a lot of old cats that are not being able to do it anymore, so new cats need to come along and fill those holes,
right?
But yeah, man, I mean, it's boring to me if I'm not playing around a little bit with something.
And now that you are back out doing shows, man, and I know you've done some here and there, man, but now that you're kind of really back out, man, what's that transition been like for you, man? You know what I mean? Has it been having to knock any rust off? I mean, like, what's it been like playing these, you know, like this last wave of shows that you guys have been out doing?
Oh, the last wave was great, man.
Yeah.
You know, they're fun, man. If I'm playing, I'm having fun, you know. And still in Houston, we got a lot of old friends there. It used to be kind of our second home, it being from here. So some of our first out of town shows were, you know, all actually, you know, our first out of town shows period were in Houston and in Dallas, you know. So we've got a lot of good friends and good roots there. So it was really fun to play Houston again. And Baton Rouge is right down the road from New Orleans. So obviously, you know, it's pretty close to home. You know, we've got some stuff coming up with Wake also. And once again, those are some super old friends of ours from the olden day, you know, and they housed us way back, you know. And so yeah, for us, it's kind of like a way of like reconnecting with a lot of our old friends, getting back into those scenes with those old friends, and it's really fun, man. And hopefully we'll get up north a little bit farther, you know, East Coast, you know, West Coast could be a little tough just because West Coast is West Coast, you know, a lot of drive far. But you know, we're gonna crack at it, man, you know, and see what happens. So yeah, it's really nice to be back, man. It's nice to play. These shows have been amazing to play.
Are there any days, you know, as a guitar player, are there days when you just don't pick the instrument up?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. You know, I can motivate myself to pick it up, but there's days when I don't think about it. You know, just because my plate is so full right now in between, you know, what's going on in my life and you know, kids and you know, this, that, and the other, you know, but I make time. Like my kid's car line, I'll bring my guitar and I'll play in the car line while waiting to pick them up, you know.
Nice. Yeah, nice.
Like I'll make time, you know, like,
yeah.
You know, certain times to play, you know. So yeah, man, you know, it's part of me. So if I do, you know, skip a day, it ain't long after where I kind of need to get back at it, you know. Even if it's just picking up an acoustic or, you know, I try to get my fingers around a lot of other instruments, you know, ukulele or banjo or dulcimer or, you know, whatever happens to be in earshot and I'm feeling the need, you know, and I'll grab hold up and play, you know.
I picked up on that. And again, you know, going back to what you said about not being able to turn the mind off. I mean, obviously, man, like that can be a heavy cross to bear sometimes, man. But as a creative, you know, is it more cross to bear or is it more advantage?
I think it's more of an advantage. I think, you know, it can kind of be cumbersome at times, you know, and I'll get stuff jumbled up and I'll lose track and I'll forget things because of it sometimes. But it kind of helps having it because it seems like the flow is there. So I've always been a big fan of, like, you know, there's always another one. There's always another riff. There's always another riff.
Right.
That one doesn't work out. Shit. There's always another one. And, you know, and it'll come, you know. So, you know, that anxiety is a feed, you know, whether or not it's, you know, has outside things pumping in it or if it's all, you know, there. But yeah, it's kind of like almost a constant feed of that I can tap into music, you know, that helps me write.
And that's the main thing that happens is you'll get an idea, and then because the mind is so active, man, that a lot of times if you don't get that idea down, it gets pushed out by another idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's times like I'll think of like a concept of a riff, you know. Sometimes I'll think like, man, like, you know, I'll put a scale and let's try to think of a creative way to play it, and I'll try to work something around. You know, and when I do that, it'll stick a little bit more. But when I'm just in there writing and I'm like, you know, just fleshing out parts, you know, you know, the anxiety has a way of kind of just chopping it and moving it along. Here's your next one, you know, and if I don't get it recorded, I need to record stuff. Unfortunately, I'm a dinosaur, so I'm still like, you know, with my guitar and an amp, and that's basically me. You know, I don't really record much of anything. I don't send riffs online or any of that kind of stuff, you know, so I kind of need to get into it, I guess, for, you know, at this point it's starting to be survival mode, and I need to jump on the board, I guess. But
so what do you do when the creativity hits, man? Like, what is your go-to, man? Like you've mentioned, like, you know, a guitar and an amp, man. Like, are you a guy writes stuff down, goes and records it on your phone?
I'll give it names. Like I'll write riffs and I'll give a name, a riff, a name. You know, like something that like connects me to it. You know, whether it be a picture or a band or whether it be an influence that maybe I can connect with it, you know, and that'll help me bring me back to that. I've hummed sometimes, you know, and they've stuck, you know. It just depends on repetition. For me is the big thing. If I capture something, I just need to kind of drill it into my brain for a while to where it's, and even then sometimes it'll be organic. My brain will change it and I'll come back to it. It won't be quite the same, but yeah, you know, it's a process, man. You know, I try to come up with an abundance, you know, an abundance of good as well, you know, because it's really easy to write cookie cutter riffs, and I try to do that, you know. So yeah, man, you know, it's just me being critical of myself, sitting there with a guitar and beating the shit out of my brain until I find something that I think is cool, you know, and bring it in.
What was your foray into extreme metal? Because obviously, man, it can be off-putting to some people. Not everybody that gets into rock or metal goes and searches out and tries to push the envelope and get you know, extreme. Certainly a lot of musicians do, man. But for you, exploring that side and taking your art and getting heavier and heavier, man, was there a certain band or an album or a song that was the impetus for that for you?
For me, my first introduction, man, to this kind of stuff was like was a friend of mine named Dave Moran. He actually was a bass player in Nuclear Crucifixion. Okay. He was older, you know. We were in our teens, and he was like in his late 20s, you know, hanging out with us and jamming. So he introduced me to that stuff. I was like a young guitar player, probably 13 or 14 when I met him, and he introduced me to that kind of stuff. Right then, it took a while for it to sink, but Trouble was one of the first bands he played for me. Venom, At War with Satan, he played that for me when I was 14 years old, and I remember I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And so yeah, a lot of the older stuff he introduced me to. And once I heard those bands and I knew where to go to find those records, it was all over, you know. So that's and then I fell in love with it right away, you know. Right away. I was on a constant thirst for something like that, you know. And once I heard it, I was like, yeah, this is what I've been hoping for, you know. And then I started getting into a lot of the punk rock stuff as well, you know. It was just like a big whole thing together. You know, there was a record store called the Metrodome. Yeah, Metrodome. Yes, the Metrodome. And they had a great selection, man, you know, of records, you know, from all those old schoolers. So that was a treat to myself. Every now and then I'd go in there and just buy a record, you know, buy a record for its cover, buy a record because you heard it was killer. Yeah. You know, and discover new bands, man, and you know, and went at it. You know, that was like a sponge. I absorbed, you know, as much as I could. It was fucking awesome, man.
And now, do you have an idea, you know, when you get to the point of new music from Soilent Green, what makes the most sense? Because people are consuming music differently. Do you feel like, and again, this is projecting a little bit, maybe you don't even have an answer to this yet, but do you feel like a full-length album? Because people are doing singles, people are doing EPs, you know, people are listening to music differently. And, you know, do you feel like an LP still works best for Soilent Green?
It does, in its true way, yeah. But probably at first, just to appease some people, we might write a couple of tunes and put out an EP of sorts, whether it be a vinyl EP or something, just to kind of get the collectors going again and give them a couple of new tunes that way. That way they don't have to wait for a new record, because you know, ultimately we would like to do a new record, man, just because I truly believe this is the best way to represent a band is with a full LP, you know. I mean, a song is a song, man. And if you, I mean, anybody who's listened to a whole record knows one song cannot represent that record, you know, because just how it is, you know. But a record generally represents a band of that time pretty well, you know. And so yeah, we'd hopefully would do that, you know. And we've got some interest, you know. So if we can get it together on our end, we'll get it out there, you know.
And now for people who might be watching this, you know, as I mentioned, the last album was 2008, Inevitable Collapse in the Presence of Conviction. So if people are just watching this, tapping in now, who are like, who's Soilent Green? You know what I mean? What would you tell them, man, to kind of, you know, if there's a new audience out there, you know, who has yet to discover Soilent Green?
You know, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. If you're tired of listening to you know, the average band, give it a try and see. You know, that's about the only thing I would say. You know, you know, I'm 56 years old, man. Selling myself ain't happening.
Right.
You don't know what's happening now, man. It's like it's where it's at, you know. So I mean, people want to come listen to it, they can. Last thing I'm worried about is the Soilent Green record coming out and selling a bunch. If it does, great. you know, for me, it's just like a way of just putting ourselves out there for the people who are wanting that record, you know. And if we get new fans, I'm more than into it, man.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I think the best sales pitch really was what we said a couple minutes ago. You know what I mean? All those different genres kind of in a big stew together. You know what I mean? That does make for interesting listening.
Sure, I think so, man. But I've also heard the opposite. It's too much for people. They want that they want that straightforward, you know, and they don't really want the other. They don't really care for what we're doing, because as soon as they kind of get into the groove of things, then, you know, it switches to something else, and that it might be a little bit too much, you know, which I get. You know, and all bands are not for everything, but I like to, you know, believe that at least we're, you know, a little bit of an odd side dish, man, to what's happening, you know, in the regular, you know, dinner plate of the music world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, we're the, you know, we're the odd couscous salad or some shit that's on the side over there. Nobody wants to touch sometimes.
Yeah. They are parsley on the plate.
Funny.
Are there any throughout the career, man? And maybe this isn't a healthy way to look back on stuff, man, but are there any regrets along the career?
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, there's regrets in life in general, you know. I mean, once you get to a certain age in life, you wish you would have handled things certain ways, you know.
Yeah.
You know, what can I say? I regret, you know, I can't, man. But, you know, sure, there's relationships with people, with business.
Yeah.
I wish things I wouldn't have said, things I wish I would have handled different, you know. And with friends, like I said, you know, I wish I would have handled some of my friends, especially some of the ones that aren't here. I wish I would have handled things better with them, be able to talk to them now. And so yeah, man, there's regrets, but, you know, hey, you can't think about that, you know, because it's kind of like a thing. You are here, and there's a reason why you're the person you are now, and all those things that you did in your life lead up to what you are now, man. You know, good and bad, you know, and of course, you wish you could change a couple things here and there, man. But, you know, I'm a generally happy person nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
Family man, I got a lovely wife, and, you know, things could be a lot fucking worse, man. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, I don't regret a whole lot, you know.
And now, so where are you guys in terms of going forward with new music? In terms of, are you looking for label support? Are you looking to do this DIY? Like, where are you guys in today's music industry? You know what I mean? What would new music from Soilent Green, you know, what would it look like? You know what I mean? How would it come out?
Right. Well, I mean, a full album, we would try to get it worked out with a record label.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know, and we would put feelers out and, you know, kind of work things out, you know. If it was an EP, more than likely we would kind of do it on a lot smaller scale, you know. Whether or not we would press it ourselves or not, we're not really sure. We kind of went that route one time, and it's just, you know, it's a lot, you know, and we'd rather kind of just let somebody else do it. You know, there's some small labels I'm sure could easily handle, you know, pressing an EP release, man, you know. So we would probably go that route if it was something like that, you know. I don't want to do a straight digital release, you know.
Yeah.
You know, which a lot of bands are kind of just doing it. Hey, here's our new song, go listen to it on Instagram. To me, it's really thin to do that. Yeah. You know, and
plus you guys also have old school fans who might still like the physical product.
Sure, man. You know, and if they don't, then, you know, whatever. I'm sure a digital copy will be offered at one point. You got to nowadays. But as far as it being a solely digital release, we like to have a little physical thing to go along with it, man. You know, plus vinyl's fucking cool, man. You know,
of course, yeah. I mean, you know, I'm from an era where you geeked out over that stuff, artwork, liner notes, all that stuff.
Yes,
you know,
indeed. Yep, absolutely.
You know, lyrics, all that kind of shit.
So yeah, if we were doing a full length, man, it would be with label. You know, you know, which label we don't know yet. You know, we would figure that out. You know, when time comes. Obviously, it's the work is on our end first. You know, as far as that goes, you know, hopefully we'll start immediately writing, you know, and we'll just keep going until it gets done. Yeah. It's going to take a while, but, you know, and we won't hide it. We'll play them live. You know, you know, people who don't play their new songs live is just it's sad to me, you know, because the songs develop when you play them live.
They have to, yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the old school bands, you know, they would write those new songs and tour with those songs, get them where they need to be, and then record them, you know. So, you know, I like to follow along those lines. So, so when we play, you know, as the songs come out, they'll be played live, man. People will get to hear them and stuff before we record them. So
before I let you out of here, man, where is the best place if people want to be locked in, tapped in with the journey of Soilent Green, updates on shows, updates on progress of the new music, man? Where's the best place? I know everyone's out there on social media somewhere. You gotta be.
I mean, right now, that's probably the best place is on social media for us right now, just because we don't have a website up and going and we don't have a lot of things like kind of full force right now. And it seems to be working, you know, as far as the shows that we're doing. So, and especially when we're working in collaboration with some of their bands, you know, those guys are, you know, they're in their scene, man. They know what's going on. You know, the guys at Lake, you know, we're playing in Little Rock. That's where they're at, man. So, I mean, if we can't get a full show together there, you know, with those cats, then, you know, something's wrong, you know. So yeah, right now, just social media, man, as far as when things are going, we're we don't ever tell anybody what we're doing.
Instagram, Facebook, all the usual suspects.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Yeah. And so to recap, we have an all points bulletin out on Ben Stout. We are hoping maybe we can corral some involvement from Donovan Punch.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. So we've got, we've got prospects on the horizon here.
Sure, man. We need to come back. I'll come back. We'll talk about more and get Ben Stout on it, man. So
goals, objective. We've got some very definitive goals and objectives here, man. And listen, man, I love Donovan, man. I've had conversations with Donovan. Donovan's an interesting cat, man. I really
absolutely, yes. He's a great dude, man. He's a great dude. You know, he's an awesome dude, man. You know, I miss him tremendously, man.
And once I chopped that little portion out of my interview with Tommy, and he even insinuated possible involvement with Donovan, man, people went crazy in the comment section, just even about the prospect of Brian and Donovan working together again and Donovan back in the fold. Now, I don't want to get too premature, obviously, man. You know what I mean? Nothing's written in stone or whatever, man. But it is an exciting notion, though, man, because I you know, and that just goes to show, you know what I mean, like just how well he's respected and admired.
Okay, yeah, I mean, absolutely, he should, man. He's awesome, and the fact that he is amazing, you know.
And I hope he knows that, because obviously he's not a guy that's on social media. He is kind of, you know, what I mean, an alternative lifestyle, off the grid, a little more, you know, detached from all of this kind of stuff or whatever, man. So, you know, what I mean, hopefully he's aware of the love that's out there for him.
I think he gets it. Yeah. They got some people that handle his social media and deliver what's happening, man. So he gets the messages, man.
Yeah.
Sure, you know, and he loves it, man. I know. You know, so
and never say never. Never say never about seeing him back in the Soilent Green fold.
Absolutely, man. We're cracking at him. We'll try to get him to do some shows, and I'm gonna try to do some writing with him just for fun, whether or not he plays or does anything with it, man. I would really love just to kind of hang out with that dude and play music, man, like we used to do in the day. So man, I would thoroughly enjoy it.
Listen, man, I appreciate you, man. You're always so generous with your time, man. I love chopping it up with you, man. And even I geek out when you pop on here, man, because Soilent Green, man, is one of my favorites, man. I love you guys, man. Seriously, man. Yeah. And now that I've had you on multiple times, you're stuck with me. I consider you a friend of the show now.
Oh, right on, man. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be a friend.
Yeah. And so anytime there's big news, anything going on in the Soilent Green world, you always got a platform here, man. We'll definitely do this again for sure.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Good talking to you as always, my friend.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All right. We'll do it again, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, bro.
Later, Brian. And there he goes, folks. Brian Patton, one of my favorite guests. I'm going to say it. Full disclosure, man. I'm partial. I'm a huge Soilent Green fan. I'm super happy to see the band pretty much back in full swing again. You know, taking steps, outplaying shows. Sounds like the next logical step from everything that Brian is saying is writing, creating, cultivating, eventually making new music, making more albums, and just continuing to keep the Soilent Green machine rolling. Hey, I like the way that sounded. The Soilent Green machine rolling. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. Actually, I did know it. But listen, super awesome news. And even better that he's also seems receptive to bringing Donovan into the fold. Of course, the great Donovan Punch. And again, we've got the APB out for one Ben Stout. If he's out there listening and happens to come across this interview, the fellows are looking for you, man. So we covered a lot of ground. As we did with the first conversation with Brian. And I always love having him on here. And I'm just ultimately super happy to see Soilent Green back in any way, shape, or form, however grand of a scale it is or small of a scale it is, just to have them in the music world out there doing stuff. But of course, we'd love to have them back on the grand scale, i.e. full albums, tours, shows, anything we can get from this great band, because oftentimes we look back and at least me as a fan, I look back, as I mentioned a couple times in the interview, last album was 2008. 17 years, boys, too long for a Soilent Green album, man. And I realize all the things Brian said, life, circumstances, other obligations with other band members. Certainly I relate to all that stuff, having a very busy life, a day job, kids, grandkids. So I get it, man. So, but listen, the prospect of getting anything new from Soilent Green as a fan, I'm giddy. What can I say? Hopefully I won't have my metalhead card pulled for describing myself as giddy, but I am. At the end of the day, I'm a fan, and I can't wait to see what the fellas do. I'm invested in this band, really love what they do. As I said, I mentioned all those different genres and subgenres that I feel like they fit into. That's what makes their music interesting to me. And if I'm going to listen to music, above all, of course, you want songs to be great, riffs to be great. But I love when stuff is interesting and artists are taking a unique approach. And Soilent Green certainly is one of those bands that does that, man. So again, another great conversation with Brian Patton. Always appreciate him having him on here. And again, make sure to tap in with Soilent Green on social media, i.e. Instagram, Facebook. Keep up with what the boys are doing. If they're playing near you, get out to a show, go get some merchandise, go buy some physical product if that's your thing. Go to your streaming sites, listen to the music, lift up and support your artist. At the end of the day, that's always my caveat when I do this podcast, because listen, that's how these artists not only make their living, but that's also what spurs them on to give us more, which ultimately as fans, we want. So, if you want the work, then go out there and as fans, show these artists that, hey, we want to hear from you. That's inspiration as well. So, listen, I've said it before on this podcast plenty of times. A musical artist is no different than being a mailman or a nurse or anything else. They're out there making a living, covering their nut, putting food on the table, feeding their family. So art and artists also deserve to make a living. We can't just go out there and just steal their art, go on there and illegally stream their music, this and that. Go on there, do the right thing by your favorite artist, and go out there, buy a shirt, buy a hat, buy a CD, go to a show, and show love, show support. And that's what being a true fan is all about. So there's my spiel. Now I'll go into my obligatory promotional mode, because I got to do that. You guys know the rules. If you got a podcast, you got to pimp it. The pimp hand is feeling extra strong today. So here we go. Make sure to tap into PodScum on Facebook. The Facebook handle is Off the Couch Boxing and PodScum, both of my podcasts, one Facebook page. I refuse to carry two Facebook pages. That is absolutely preposterous. People have suggested it. It's not going to happen. So you get updates on both podcasts through the one Facebook page. Again, the handle is Off the Couch Boxing and PodScum. You'll get updates on new episodes, when those episodes are going to drop, and who will be on those episodes, as well as any other big pertinent news. If it's popping off in the music, arts, and entertainment world, or the boxing world, the fight game, I try to keep you guys in the loop, my brethren out there. I do what I can. You know, your boy Reckless Rexx is a man of the people. I'm all about my audience. So if something is newsworthy and noteworthy, I'm putting it up there for you guys. So tap in with us there. And I'm trying to be better, as I've said on past episodes, about being a little more active on my Instagram. I'm trying to cut up snippets, reels, shorts, make videos for you guys, and pay attention to the Instagram account, which, by the way, is the same handle, Off the Couch Boxing and PodScum. So tap in with us on Instagram as well. And of course, if you're here right now, this is where you're going to get your meat and potatoes. This is where you really need to be, where we're diving in and having those amazing conversations like we just had with my guy, BRIAN PATTON. So if you're here right now and watching, you're in the right place. Pat yourself on the back, like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell to stay tapped in when new episodes are dropping. So again, my sincere thanks to BRIAN PATTON of Soilent Green. Make sure to tap in with them. Make sure to stay tapped in with us. And of course, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.